Alright everyone, settle down, we're all adults here.
Papa, you did it! I love you.
Okay, I just want to make it clear, I didn't just choose to watch this because it happens to feature a ton of super hot women half naked on webcams. I chose to watch it for the artistic merit of the unique characters and setting.
Cam follows a young woman who works as a self-made webcam girl. You know the type I mean. They flash at the bottom corner of your laptop when you're surfing X-rated sites and entice you to speak to them in order for you to pay for them to do stuff on camera for your own sick pleasure.
Oh, you pervert!
Writer Isa Mazai actually drew upon her own experiences as a cam girl when coming up with the screenplay, and it really shows. The film is shot tastefully. You never get gratuitous shots of naked women or constant sex acts being performed.
Much to my dismay.
Look, cam girls aren't my thing, but I think that's what intrigued me so much about the film. It's pretty rare for movies to look into the world of pornography in this manner, and even less rare for horror films to do it. It's usually a drama or a comedy that takes on this subject. So the setup instantly hooked me since I'd be watching something I'm not familiar with that already has an intriguing premise.
Zombie girl says goodnight. Zombie girl says goodnight.
The story follows our protagonist Alice the cam girl, who does a nightly show for a load of fans, has personal video chats with specific clients, and is constantly thinking of new ways to be fresh and exciting for her audience.
The film does an amazing job getting us used to how Alice's world works without any expository dialogue. We learn everything we need to know simply by seeing her go through her daily routine.
We see how she constantly has to keep the men tipping her entertained throughout the day, the little tricks she pulls to ensure it doesn't dominate her life, all the while trying to hide this aspect of her life from those she interacts with in her personal bubble. Alice herself is really likeable. She's filled with joy and is a ton of fun to be around. When she's around her friends who are also webcam girls, we can see her loosen up and enjoy life, and it clashes with the more distant and defensive stance she has to take outside her comfort zone. We also have to see her survive the much darker underground porn industry, where all these women are at each other's throats, poaching clients, using dirty tactics to sabotage each other's shows, and just good old-fashioned two-faced bitchiness that accompanies such an atmosphere.
Those bitches.
It wouldn't work nearly as well if it wasn't for the absolutely stellar committed performance from Madeline Brewer, who has to run through every single emotion you can imagine an actress going through and does so flawlessly.
The film also looks damn slick. The colours really pop, and the whole film has a kind of dark, dirty feel to it that oozes off the screen. Appropriate, considering the subject matter is considered to be one of the more seedy professions to be in, and allows the film's transition into horror to be all the smoother. You can tell she's committed to being the best in her field, and like most of us, is just trying to make ends meet. She's so driven and invested in making it to the top of this pretty meaningless website that it borders on obsessive. Even the way her flat is dressed up shows us how everything is devoted to her webcam business, with her studio being a lavish, expensive production filled with hundreds of props, while the rest of her home is relatively barren and cheap looking. I think her studio comprises of her entire living room, meaning she can't even have people over to visit. She lives both a lonely existence while also being extremely popular online. It really reminded me of films like Whiplash or Black Swan, basing its story on a passionate, talented young person who will do anything to be the greatest of all time in their chosen craft. Only here, the craft just happens to be entertaining people erotically.
Because I want to be great.
You're probably wondering where the horror part comes into it. Well, the movie has a ton of moving parts. I haven't even mentioned the more creepy characters that go on in her life. But the big moment happens 30 minutes into the film.
Come on, you guys know how I live. Hardcore.
One night Alice is mindlessly looking for ideas, she stumbles across her own account being active, only she's in bed and it's herself in the video. It's not old footage, and there's not two of her in the flat, so this doppelganger instantly changes the tone of the whole movie. It becomes a haunting enigma, and only gets more chilling as the film goes on. Everything she's worked for has been taken away by this completely unexplainable event. It doesn't help that on top of this, she has her real life to maintain, that has its own issues that spiral out of her control too. It's one of those films that seem to have a never-ending supply of anxiety to force both you and the character through. If you've ever seen a movie like Uncut Gems, then you'll understand exactly what I mean.
Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
It's a horror like The Babadook, that focuses on telling a good dramatic story with characters you're invested in first, before hitting you with the horror aspects.
But you told me last night you want me in real life. You love me. So
I didn't
thought
talk
that...
to you last night.
The film's biggest strength is that you generally have no clue where it's going or what the hell Alice is going to do.
Alice is smart and tries everything she can, including showing all her friends, but she's unable to get help no matter what she does. I genuinely couldn't figure out what she was going to do to fix it, and the tension constantly grows more and more as she takes bigger risks and puts herself in more dangerous situations. The editing is fantastic. The film moves at such a good pace. You really get a sense of how focused she is, or how stressful a scenario is becoming due to how well a scene is pieced together. I have to give big props to the people who did the audio work on the movie too. It could have been really irritating having to hear the constant chat notifications going off, mixed with women moaning and fake laughing. But they find the perfect tones to ensure it never drives you mad. The only downside to the film itself is unfortunately the ending.
Everything leading up to it is so good and keeps your eyes glued to the screen, but when the showdown with the doppelganger actually comes, it's not very satisfying. It's almost like the filmmakers themselves were unsure of what to do with everything they'd set up.
It doesn't answer any burning questions you might have about the doppelganger, and the way in which it is ultimately defeated didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It does give Alice a satisfying resolution to her own arc, but it feels like the story had to wrap up, and so it just kinda ends. Luckily, it's not enough to taint the rest of the movie, which works supremely well. It's a thrilling puzzle with slick cinematography, great writing, and a really interesting world and characters to take in.
It's a shame the ending falls a little flat, but I'd still recommend it to anyone looking for a unique, mysterious, and creepy psychological horror experience. I swear to God, it's not just because it's filled with tons of super hot half-naked women.